able to hear me? Hello?
You hear me now?
Okay. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I'm able to hear you.
Okay, now I can hear you now. I wasn't hearing anything. My apologies, Professor.
Yeah. And how are you, Doc? How are you, Prof?
I'm fine. How are you, Prof?
I'm all right. I have
I'm glad to see you, Professor Josie. I can't believe
Prof,
this.
I'm also happy to see you, man.
I can't
I'm
believe
also very
this.
happy to see you. Hey. I was even calling you now, I was calling you now.
Is that so?
Yeah, I was calling you. I was like, what happened to this man now?
You know, I'm here in South Africa. I'm in Kempton Park right now.
Is it?
Yeah, we had a 1 week meeting. I was invited to teach about these emerging theologies. So I was teaching theology of inclusion.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm in the Northwest right now. We should have.
Okay.
Your schedule, I think, is a bit here and there because you could have mentioned it and we could have arranged something to that effect.
No, don't worry.
Because now we could have had the conversations a bit more personal if I could. Because could have flown to you, we would have had the conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
Hey, you're busy,
I'll be
man.
going back to Malawi on Monday.
Or you going back to Malawi on Monday?
On Monday. I'm busy marking now. I have 476 students. Can you imagine?
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. And of course, the work comes with the rewards.
Not much. But anyway, there's something, but not much. Not as you are getting. You must be getting more than. How can you be getting more than your lecture, Joseph? Serious, that's very unfair.
We must have a conversation with them.
We have to. But you know, from day one I saw you at the Investor 40, I knew that this young man has got a future. You remember?
You had a prophetic vision there.
Serious. No, great.
Well,
I'm glad that
you know what? I'm actually, I've been blessed to have you in my life. I've been blessed to have you in my life. You've been a great mentor and a great friend. Even in the most difficult of times, I remember at one point earlier on in our relationship, I even, wrote to you concerning like what I was facing and stuff. And I really appreciate your influence on my life, your example, your words of wisdom and just your encouragement, dog. Prof, you've done a lot for me. You've done a lot greatly.
You're a good man, so
so I'm very happy. And also, I'm happy that we could, allow for these conversations to flow for the public good. You know what I mean? To flow for the public good, and there's a lot happening in our world. I guess right now, perhaps I should do the proper introduction, and so that we can, get on it as soon as possible. Again, welcome to everyone who has taken time to join us, myself and Prof. Gamma. It is a pleasure to have you. Of course, these conversations have been felt so that we take what has been, there's a lot that happens within academics, a lot that can be of great help to the public. Academics only lets out 0.1% of what it thinks or what it knows. And that is a bit sad. In the corridors of knowledge, in the boardrooms of knowledge, there is a lot in the libraries, in the archives. There's a lot that we have, a lot that is produced yearly. Academics, on the average, there's thousands of papers written yearly. Thousands of problems that have been solved by academics, especially within theology itself. There's a lot that we do, a lot that we know that can help the ordinary person. But the only means and the only that information that gets let out is 0.1, either through books, either through talks, And of course, the ordinary and traditional method is the sermon. And that is an outcry that 0.1%, in my estimation, gets let out. It means that a lot of things are known by the public, a lot of things are known by the people. And this is to say our current conditions cannot tolerate that. Our current conditions internationally, our current conditions on the continent, conditions locally cannot tolerate that. People are asking genuine questions, and people are coming up with answers. Other people are coming now to fill in those gaps, and those people are coming with not really, they're not formally informed as much as they mean well, and so there is a lot of need for correct and proper knowledge when it comes to us. And therefore, this is why I feel that I should take up private conversations that we normally have with colleagues, private conversations that this man right here, he can share his wisdom on many of these things. And so I present to you a great man, a significant person within the realm of religion, a significant person, especially within the Christian tradition. He serves, let me start now his bio, because I closed that page. Let me start now his bio. All right. Rev Prof. Bidigama is a Prof of Theology and Development in ISOS. He's also Chairman of Malawi Council of Churches. He's Coordinator of Southern Region, African Communion of Reformed Churches. He's a member of the Permanent Committee on Consensus and Collaboration, which is on the Central Committee in the World Council of Churches. And this is one of the things I'm proud of him for. He's General Secretary Emeritus at the CCAP Blantyre Synod, Chairman Emeritus, University of Malawi Council, Lead Person Emeritus, University of Blantyre Synod, hello, Board Chairperson, Malawi Broadcasting Corporation, Emeritus, Board Chairperson Emeritus, Lolingwe Water Board, and of course, advisor to the President of the Republic of Malawi on Religious Affairs, Emeritus. And this, of course, is the redacted professional bio of Professor Rev. Bidigama. And we could have gone on and on. But of course, I was gracious that he could at least redact some things so we can make it concise for you and ourselves. Doc, how have you been again?
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you, Professor.
Let me begin by asking, what is religion?
You know, there are several definitions, but the one I capture, which is very simple, it is a system of believing on the supernatural. In a simple term, I can define it like that: a system of believing in the supernatural. Others may take it as a science, that belief alone. Others may just take it from religious perspective or ecclesiastical perspective, but it is that belief in the supernatural.
Thank you, Prof. Another aspect, perhaps, is why then are human beings so caught up, or rather, let me put it like this: why are human beings so inherently religious?
You know, maybe I would say human beings, a number of them, they are so attached to religion. And it is also somehow the way of life. We may understand it from that perspective. And I would focus much on Christianity, because within religion, there are several, there is Hinduism, there is Buddhism, there are a lot. Islam itself is also a religion. But my focus, if I'm to quote John Macquarie, a book entitled Principles of Christian Theology, written by John Macquarie, you hear that a religion should be participatory, or theology must be participatory. So it reflects the way you can respond, the way you can understand your religion, it will be based on your belief. To say you are seeing God from what angle? If I see the same God from the Islamic perspective, I'll see that God as Allah. If I see that God from a Christianity perspective, the same God, I'll understand him in the form of Trinity, where we are talking of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. So another Hindu will understand in a different perspective. Judaism, they will understand in a different perspective. While we Christians, we value Jesus as the Son of God. You find a Muslim will say, no, 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 no. He was not the Son of God, but he was the last prophet. You know, debate starts right away. And you go to Judaism, we say, no, 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 no. Jesus Christ was just a mere person. We are still waiting for the Messiah. You know, it's very interesting. In 2012, I went to Israel. When I was there in Israel, it was so interesting that the guide, tourist, the guide who was taking us around, we reached a certain place and he said, oh, this city is called Magdalena City. It was named after Jesus' wife. I said, eh? What are you saying, man?
Hallelujah.
I said, he's a Jew. He never cared. He doesn't see Jesus the way we see. So that again, it reminded me of my New Testament lecture way back when I was a student in the second year, when he said, you know, Mary Magdalene was a wife of Jesus. Professor, don't confuse us. Don't confuse us. We are all and you know, when you are getting to theological college, you are very holy. Your expectations are so holy, and you see that is divinity of God. So when now here is a lecture, he's telling him to say Jesus Christ had a girlfriend. Oh, wait a minute. So it is a way of life, in the belief of the
And then, of course, this way of life has actual sociological impacts. It impacts, of course, on the community, on how we behave. And most importantly, an element I'd like to bring out, it has an impact on economics.
Very much. Very so much. You know, you know, nowadays, actually, I started right away when I was at the University of Voltaire, discussing with people like Professor Williams. I said, you know what? Actually, I'll begin by, there was a year at the University of Voltaire that we had so many students that joined the theology department. So many students, even young students, young men and women. And they joined because they wanted to have a space at the university. Now, what happened when they realized to say in other faculties, the maximum number of students that they wanted, they reached those maximum, and they were given an option unless you want to study a theology. Then, at that time, I began to think. I told my professor, who was my supervisor then, to say, Prof, I still feel this type of theology we are teaching people is not important, because we are lecturing a theology which is more like all of them, we are grooming them to be reverends or pastors, which is not the case. Religion is beyond that. Theology is beyond that. And I started talking to say, why can't we have what we call theology and development? So that we can make it wider, we can open it wider, we can cover all the current issues. Then I began to develop at that level to say, no. What is development? I began to see development is, in a simple term, any action or anything that you can do that will add value for the better. Okay, for the sake of this, let us define it in that simple term. Now, I read one of the systematic theology books, which was saying actually, if you want to be an expert in a systematic theology or a contemporary theology or a contextual theology, there are three things you have to do. Okay, three things. There's part A. Part A, it deals with God. Okay, and when we are talking of part A dealing with God, what I mean is, you have to understand what is God, who is God, the attributes of God, and within the Godhead, you have to understand Christology, Jesus as a human being, but also Jesus as a divine. Then you have to understand the Holy Spirit, because we still believe God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. But all that is within what you call part A. But part B is the church. Okay. Now, part B, when you're talking of it as a church, you are saying you have to understand the history of churches, how the church fathers, their history, then the doctrines, the belief in the churches, that's all that they come from what we call part B. Then we go to part C. Part C is what we call contemporary issues, real issues or situations. So when you are an expert of contextual, contemporary, or even systematic theology, you have to marry the three. Okay? Then how do you marry the three? You begin with a situation or an issue. So it means you begin with part C. There is an issue at hand. I'll give you an example, maybe the issue of poverty, as you are saying, in economy, the industrialization. These are issues. Then you go to part A. Where is God in this situation? Even the issues of cyclones, disasters that happen worldwide. You begin to question, where is God in this situation? Then you end up by part B. And part B is where the church is, where theologians are. Now you begin to say, what should the church say out of this situation? You look at the situation, then you, number three, you go to number one, where is God? And you are on the middle, what should the church say out of this? So when I begin to debate on those questions, then I realized to say, no, we need to come up with what we call, probably for the sake of accommodating all this, let's call it theology and development. And that is what I'm dealing a lot. You may wish to remember, I even wrote a book, The Role of the Church in Politics in Malawi. Yeah. You have that book, I think, in South Africa, because my publishers were Akadisa in Pretoria. The Role of the Church in Politics in Malawi. I used Malawi as an example, as somebody who comes from Malawi. But entering into that debate, I realized to say theology or religion is richer than just limiting it just within the church. And since it is the way of life, if you understand it from that perspective, it means as a life, you can talk of economy, you can talk of workers, you can talk of anything. So that the students that we can recruit, they should not be just limited to say there'll be preachers or there'll be pastors. Because we talk of the issue of climate change, the issues which are at hand, we still see God. Where is God in those calamities? We are talking of the issues of poverty. When somebody is very poor, should we say that God is no longer looking at that person? So, here in South Africa, you have that document, the Kairos document of 1985, a popular document. You remember it? So,
you love that document, eh?
Love it. So you look at what does Kairos document say? It is an opportune time when the issue of apartheid were very serious in South Africa, but also the church had to respond. And the Kairos document came up with three theologies: state theology, which was supporting unconditionally the government, and using Romans 13, saying every leader, government leader, was ordained by God, was appointed by God. So you can see, when you are talking of politics, a person is involved. It's the way of life. There's politics, politics, even if you say, I'm not a politician, you are still in one way or the other, you are engaged. Because if the government is making poor decisions, bad decisions, the way of life will be affected. if the government is not strong enough. So you begin to say, yes, I see, I don't want to be involved in politics, but yet you are you are a human being. You are still alive. You go to shops, you find things have gone up, the price of things. But I'm saying I'm not involved in politics. You're not involved, yes. But look, you have to go to the same shop and you're failing to buy. Now you begin to say, what is this God I'm talking about? Who is this God who is making me stuff in this world, but yet others are happy in the same world? So all those things, they begin to arouse me to say, no, I think this is the field I just need to explore, the issues of theology and development. So there are a lot of things that I would talk to say, religion or theology really covers the whole life. I was in Kenya where top religious leaders, they were having a meeting to discuss debt relief in Africa. Africa with a lot of debts. And there we were saying, I was so much impressed. One of the religious leaders said, all the problems in the world, we religious leaders are to blame. Okay. And he gave a very good analogy to say, if you buy a vehicle, there's normally a manual in that book, in that vehicle. And the Bible might be saying, that vehicle, that manual might be saying, you need to put oil in the engine. Okay. For a car to have long life, you need to put oil. Then you are told, okay, for you to move, you also need some fuel to put in the car. And the fuel they specify, it can either be diesel or petrol. Okay. Now, if you decided to say, no, I'm an African, instead of putting oil in the car, let me put porridge. You understand? Let me put porridge in this car. Are you there, Professor? Hello, Professor.
Yeah. I've given you the full screen.
I thought you have disappeared.
No, yeah, just give me the full screen so that.
Okay, great. Yeah. So he was saying, you have to follow what is in the manual.
Yeah.
For your car to live longer. Okay. So
you can't put porridge inside there.
You can't put porridge in instead of oil. He said, I'm an African, I need porridge. No. So what happens? You're going to damage the car. Correct. So we religious leaders, we have been given the manual, which is the Bible or the Quran. Okay. So the way of life, how we should live, everything is covered in that Bible or in the Quran. Now, if the people who are running the government, they are not aware what the Bible say about how they can run the government, we are to blame because we are not telling them. We're just keeping the manual. That's why the church, learning from Cairo's document of 1985, I settle for prophetic theology. Prophetic theology, religious leaders must speak on behalf of the voiceless, the oppressed, the minority. So actually, part of what I was lecturing in the meeting there, in the theology of inclusion, I was saying, we have to do soul searching. Who are the minority in our communities? The homosexuals, the widows, the single parents, even the youth, the orphans, the children. We can mention thousands and thousands of groups whom we can say minorities. And those people, we need to have an ear to listen to them. What is their cry? Okay, if we really need the church, if you still want the church to remain relevant in our society, in modern society, we need to begin to explore such things so that whichever category of people feels to be oppressed, we should be able to speak out, but they will never speak on themselves. That's the role of religion, the role of a church, the role of church leaders. We have to speak on behalf of the voiceless. We mentioned something like judgmental. Sometimes we jump into the Bible, we select a single verse and judge others to think we are holier than those other people. And if we take religion from that perspective, definitely that's a wrong direction, because the Bible should be read holistically. We should be able to see this verse and you go to that verse. If you combine them, what is it that is being said? And that is the only way the church will remain relevant. The church must be able to provide possible solutions. The church should not just be saying the kingdom of God, you are going to enjoy in heaven. No, it's not true. We need to explore and challenge. So that is our role. We theologians, that is our role. We have read the Bible. Let us apply to our day-to-day situations. If we don't do that, then we become irrelevant. I also gave another good example for Bekele Shanko. There was a time we had what you call Operation Sunrise Africa. I think that was 2001, if I'm not mistaken. Operation Sunrise Africa, it was a special ministry which was targeting 50 million people in 50 days in 50 cities. We call it 50, 50, 50. The founder for that ministry was Bekele Shanko, an Ethiopian. And he said, he part of his history, he mentioned it, he came from a background where people believed in witchcraft and all those things. But he saw a vision and he had to change. Now, what I liked about him, he said, like my professor, you are there. If you are sitting on that chair, nobody can come and sit there because you're already sitting there. But now, if you are sitting on a chair or a position, you are doing nothing. The best thing that you can do is to ask God to take you out of this world. In short, you must die. Because you're not doing anything. Because God is not going to send another person to speak on behalf of the voiceless when you are already in that position. But what is it that you're in that position? You're not speaking on behalf of the voiceless. You're not building the nation. You're not contributing to development of the nation. You're doing nothing. Why should you remain there? It means God's work is going to suffer. So you can see how wider theology is. Let somebody come and occupy your seat. I tell you, Professor. So we need a theology which is relevant in day-to-day life. Bro. A theology that will give you hope to the people.
And of course, we generally will be biased in the sense that we will focus on Christianity. Whereas when we are talking of religion, we are talking of a number of religions, some of which I contrast and go against
I agree.
Christianity. Now, I do want us to dwell a bit on the side that on the technicality, which will force us then to vacate our bias. So, of course, we are correct to be biased in the sense that we are convinced as academics, we are convinced as professionals that on Christianity and its claims, we are convinced that there's nothing that's going to shake us from it. But again, as professionals, being that we are theologians, we must again return to a sense in which we are objective. A bit objective in the sense that when we are talking of religion, we are not really validating or invalidating any claims of any religion, right? So anyone can stand up tomorrow and claim that that tree is holy and important. We say, well, if that community believes that, we give them the right to believe what they want. And we will, of course, as theologians, even some of us might be theologians of a tree, study the merits and preach the merits and advocate the merits of that tree that is claimed to be holy. So in a sense, I would like us to return to the very technical parts of our calling and our profession, where now we deal with the whole lot of what is in religion, and then we will return to our own bias, correct? And we are correct to have a bias. Everyone has a bias. Everyone has a bias, and that's okay. But we can, at least in some sense, all of us return to the technicalities of the profession and be a bit objective in the sense that when talking about religion, as you said, and you said this a couple of times, that we're talking of a broader thing. This thing is big. And what you were alluding to there is that if we in the Christian sector or the Christians part of it are not doing our job, God has a right to take any other people from any other religion and do the job.
Oh yeah.
So I'd like us to return a bit, and I know you've gone far, and I appreciate that. Let us return a bit to the technical side of our profession to speak about, and you've touched this, and I'm attempting to kind of bring this into concise nuggets for the public, which may not be academics, which may not be where we are and understand some of these things. And I'm saying, in the concept that you've brought about in your definition of theology, you've cited three things, and I'll repeat them to you. You've cited the claims that are made by any religion. And of course, in the Christian faith, we claim Jesus is God, and in Yahweh is God, and the Trinity is God. We claim that, and of course, we make our different claims. So, in this definition of and every definition, in fact, there are these three landmarks, as I've put it like that. There's the fact that every religion has a claim, right? All religion, there's either the claim is metaphysical, as far as, for example, Christianity, Islam, and anyone who claims a deity, that is under the cap, of course, of metaphysics. And then there are other more physical claims, such as people who worship stones without any attachment to any particular god. People that, for example, animism, the idea that everything is alive by energy. That's a religion on its own. And it worships the idea that there's energy in all of us and life in all of us. So normally the claim is either metaphysical, where there's a claim that there is a deity, or the claim is rather physical, where there is no deity. It's just we are worshipping an idea or an object. Normally, and then that's the first part, which everyone, of course, that part is covered by everyone. If you look anywhere, that's why I say there's this 0.1% of information that's put out there. Everyone is focusing mainly and solely on the claims. And then there's a second, of course, definition of religion, or rather part of element of religion, which only focuses on the practices, which are normally all the practices are communal. So you have your communion, your marriage, your rituals, your whatever. There's that element. And then there's the element of the third part, how those practices affect the broader society, which is what now perhaps we might delve into a bit later, which is the religious industry, which we have talked a lot about, the social impact of religion, politics, finances, and you made the example of you say you're not into politics, but when the price go up, the bread goes up, you really realize that you really are into politics. And that, of course, is the religious sector, or rather put together is the religious industry. And that deals with the money in and out of religion. Whether you're talking about a Sangoma somewhere in Soweto, or somewhere in KZN, or somewhere in the Eastern Cape, who is sitting, or somewhere in Blantyre, who's sitting there and who's offering a service and gets money in exchange. Because every religious interaction always has an economic value. Now, I'd like us to go into a bit, and we'll come out just now. We're just gonna pop in and out. Why is the economic value of religion, or rather the religious industry, why is it something we rarely ever talk about publicly?
That's an important question. Remember, as we said, immediately let's say the way of life. And let me immediately say, despite quoting John Macquarie on the religion as participatory, or theology as a participatory, but as an academic, I should recognize all these other religions. And despite being biased to feel like Christianity is the best, but declaring that Christianity is the best does not mean we are underrating the other religions. No, they have their right to believe what they believe.
Yes, bro.
I was in China. I was so much interested in the buildings, the golden maid. Anyway, in Christianity, I would be saying idol worship, but I would not say that as an academic, because I respect it. That's their choice. That's how they understand their God. But also even in Africa, before actually missionaries from either Scotland came bringing Christianity, I would say people were still religious because they could believe in the supernatural. That's why I never mentioned just God, because even within African traditional religion, there are people who have their own religion. They worship, they use whether trees or they use soil or whatever, but to them they have an idea of a supernatural within their belief. And if we are to be successful, to have an impact, whether in the industry, we need to have that collective mind. We need to have a united spirit, a communal spirit, whereby we are not starting to fight or to promote divisions among religions. Immediately we start with the dividing, trying to define we are the best, we lose then our impact, our saltiness in the society. Remember, Jesus also said, you are the light and the salt of the world. So, but if we talk with holistically, recognizing and appreciating our differences, I think that would be very key, so that nobody is left behind. When it comes to the issues of society or social issues, let everybody be engaged. If within my understanding of a certain thing, even how to build up economy, if I realize that with my Christian perspective or background, but the same theme, but another religion, they're handling it well, I will share mine and appreciate what my colleagues believe in. What we want is, at the end of the day, we should be able to appreciate, to say we are doing well in the economy, we are building up our people are able to know how to make money, but with this too the belief of the supernatural. But again, despite of the belief of the supernatural, but we have to encourage our people to work hard. I don't believe in what people talk about miracle money. No, I believe. But by saying that, I know a certain angle of religion again might be offended, because that's what they preach to people, to say, when you come and I pray for you, you have money. No, it doesn't.
But as much as we're objective, we have a right to a bias. Everyone has a right to some bias, as long as our objectivity is not shaken from that.
Very, very, very true. We can't avoid it.
It's like sport, right? One person supports one team and the other. You can't say just because your team is losing that it was rigged. No.
You dump it. No, you actually say no. We have lost because the referee was not doing well. Yeah. So really, in the issues of industry, we need to do more, and we should do that collectively, because the people in our society, they belong to different religions as well, and we should respect them as well. Nobody should be punished just because of his or her religious affiliation. No, I think that is not okay with the biasness. That is not being Christian.
Yes.
We still believe that.
Another thing is that I think what happens when we refuse to publicly converse on religion being an industry, the religious industry, we run the risk of ourselves, particularly even if I were to talk about the Christian sector of the religious industry, we run ourselves into the risk of being an abusive industry. By not saying, for example, not paying theologians that are employed as pastors well. For example, there are so many cases within the Christian sector, or that end up in tribunals. We have a tribunal, CCMA in South Africa. It handles a lot of disputes between the clergy and the employees, which is the church. And that's because the church is an employer. And of course, yes, in a sense, it does speak to, I mean, someone would argue, yeah, but we should be able to, arbitrate ourselves. But sometimes we need structures, formal structures from other sources to arbitrate, because we are an industry. The church, for example, is an employer. And to look at the industry itself and how much money it puts into the society as equal to how much money we take out. Of course, it is correct that governments around the world have given us the title, or rather the category of being non-profit or not-for-profit or non-governmental. So we are not-for-profit, and then we're non-profit, and then either we are either non-governmental. And so all of these things, of course, are proper, because the industry could not survive without them. But there is the economic value within the industry. And when we don't talk about it, when we don't public, and I say this publicly, because every conversation around our economic impact and economic value about the real matters of the industry is always private. Even in the academics, our salaries are private. It's between myself and the employer. With the church, even the congregants don't know what's happening as far as the employability, non-employability, and the other affairs that happen with the pastors in the church. And so when these things erupt, we run the risk in generally as a religion, as an industry, of becoming bad employers. For example, where there's the case of employees. Secondary is that we tend to not understand how then the sector or the industry should develop. Like you said, when there was a phenomena in our old institution, Forte, where other people, we were joining the religious and theology department. Many of us joined because this was our second option. So now so now we're here, and you were correct then, and you are correct now. And this is my point in regards to talking about wanting us to publicly talk about this, is because so that we don't end up being a negative economic value. By that, we allow negative things to happen within the industry, allow abuses to happen because we don't talk about the money in the industry.
You know, I would respond again by giving an example. When I was in Malawi, way back, there was another year when the religious leaders, they were asked to be invigilators for the exams. They were saying that exams, people used to have exams, leakage, all these things. So they said, no, let us try these men of God. Probably they'll be very honest enough and transparent, and our exams will be secured. So I was one of them who invigilated the exam. But of course, it was good for me because that was an additional money, because they were able to pay us more than what the church was paying us. So then everybody needs money. So when I went to what you call Malawi National Examinations Board for us to get paid, I met one of the friends that we were together at primary school. So he asked me, "Oh, Billy, where are you now?" Then I said, "Oh, I'm a reverend." I tell you, he shouted, he said, "Oh no! All that intelligence, you are now a reverend." and he told his friend, said, you know, this friend of mine, he was a genius. I'm so shocked that all that intelligence, now he has ended up being a reverend. He was shocked. Can you imagine the perception of people? Many people really believe that the reverends or pastors, after trying all the options, and they have failed. This is the only last option. Then what else am I going to do, since all the doors seem to be closed? And this is a true story, my brother. Then another incident that happened, which also shows how religion is underrated worldwide. There was when I was a moderator for an urban congregation, a certain family said, you know, Rev, you are so connected. Please help our sons and daughters to get a job. Now they started analyzing. The firstborn has a degree ABCD. The secondborn is a graduate on ABCD. Yeah, so please, if you can get something for them. But we have our lastborn, that one is not serious with the study. He has been failing. That one, even if you take him to be a reverend, I think that would be okay. Can you imagine? You will see how the public look at certain groups of the public. They look at the theologians or religious leaders to say, these are people who have failed. Imagine the way I know you, Professor. You've always been brilliant, and now people thinking that you joined it just because. Imagine, my brother. That's the public. So, and there are other people who always say that no, our way to be in heaven. Can you imagine? They think we don't need to drive very expensive vehicles.
Hey, that's another group.
I tell you. So the world or certain society, they look at us as people that have failed in life. That is not the case. That is not the case. And that is for every religion. It's not only Christianity. We also need money, my brother. We need money. We need to eat. We need a comfortable life. We also need all those things that people need. We also need. So actually, that's why we need to be encouraging our people to work. And the only difference they can do is let everybody who is attached to religion, he should be a model, he'll be a good example. Wherever he's working, he'll be a trustworthy person. And the people, that is the only way it can attract people to say, wow, why is this person always punctual? By 7:30, he's in the office. And he doesn't leave the office earlier than the knocking time. And somebody should be able to say, no, he's a religious person. So you are able to say, I need to be a model in my society. That's when we can promote religion in our industries. But if you are the first one to be abusing or to be abusers or to be fighting, we will not set a good example. Then people begin to challenge, his religion has not helped him. Look what he's doing. All these things. So
it is true. It is true. And it's sadly true. What we've done to the industry and what reputation we've built for ourselves. Of course, it is an industry that in a sense, and there's any industry that has been built. I mean, our pioneers, of course, had to sacrifice a lot. As of course, any industry. If you look at the medical profession, in the early beginnings, the medical profession itself was self-sacrifice. Any industry within the quote-unquote humanities started off being very sacrificial. And of course, but that sacrificial level is built on ethics. It's not just for the sake of being sacrificial. It is built on ethics. In the same sense that there is a point to which even a church or even a theologian starts to say, even doctors, for example, I love when I say doctors, of course, now I'm referring to physicians. And even physicians, for example, if you take the example of Cuba, Cuban physicians do self-sacrifice, but they do not so dumbly as we think, because the government does fork out the money to pay for these people, and they go around the world and they assist people. There is a cost to that, and we have put ourselves by being untrue and not willing to talk publicly about our industry, in a position where we are known as the people that attack the dumb people, and sorry for using that word, the unintelligent or the lazy people. And someone said that to me. He said, it is the industry of the lazy people. Well, it is actually not. Because because we have done that. I look at what we as theologians have done across the world. Every peace treaty, you will find a theologian involved. Every place where there's war, you'll find theologians at work. And I think we really dupe ourselves when we don't discuss this publicly, and we don't let
we must be discussing this.
Yes, we don't let the public in, because and one colleague pointed out that if you look in, for example, the stats in America and how he viewed it, out of 10 people, he says 9 of those, or rather, sorry, 6 of those people go to Catholic hospitals.
Imagine.
And this is his American observation, that there are so many Catholic, hospitals in America that you can't talk about the medicine, you can't talk about, health in America without really recognizing the impact of the Catholics. And this is just on medicine. Think of education. Think of how many church schools there are. And of course I'm being biased in that the examples I'm using are Christian examples. But of course you can take this to Judaism, you can take this to Islam, you can take this to every other religion and look at the impact that we're having. And of course, those people that work in those hospitals, I'm telling you, those people are being paid.
Imagine.
There's no, let's get together, we are hungry now, we'll pray. There's none of that. So when we do this thing, we really make ourselves impractical people. We seem to be aloof in regards to, as you rightly pointed out, we do a disservice to our claims. And in Christianity particularly, our claim to God. We do a great disservice by being so impractical. In that, I wanted to ask something to what do you think, for example, if we were to speak to a person that either is going to start their first year, is going to start their journey into theology, in regards to the industry, what should their mindset be like? Because then, like you said, when you started and you found out that Jesus had a wife, that was a shocker for me. So if now we are looking at a very young theologian who's entering the industry, how would you have them open their mind into the religious industry? Because it's not only Christian theologians. There are Jewish theologians, there are Muslim theologians, there's a variety. So how would you have them open their worldview in regard to the profession and the religion as a whole?
The first thing, they should not be scared. They should have a positive mind. And they should be able to say that, yes, within the religious circles, we have also other people that we can call our models, people that have been successful. Because if they are going to join the ministry when they are already negative, then they will not find anything interesting. They'll actually feel like they wasted their time. It is a great loss. Within the system, those people who work extra hard and be creative, they're able to be successful and be even competitive in the industry. And they even make the winners just because they did not just say, I'm a theologian or I'm a religious person, let me sit down and expect for miracle money. I've already said there's nothing about miracle money. They need to work hard. And the hard working, it pays. My brother, regardless of whatever direction and industry you might be coming from, hard working pays. But again, you should know that in every industry nowadays, it's not an issue of what qualification you are having and how high or how big the qualification is, but it's the issue of networking. The issue of networking is very important. And there's nothing in religious circles that stops a person to be strong in networking. There's nothing about it. So it means we just need to make sure that, okay, I'm in this industry. One, I need to work hard. I need to be an honest person. And I should be able to make myself relevant. One of the topics that I taught, one of the theologies I just developed is what we call theology of relevance. Theology of relevance is God wants every person to be important. Remember, there was a time when when David was very relevant, when the Jews were being fought by the Philistines, and they had their Goliath. But that time they needed David. David was the most relevant person. They were even singing songs of praise, praising David, despite David taking advantage over that. You know his history. But he worked hard.
He was very relevant. And nobody in their society, whether you can call it in that country, will never forget what David did. Because he was creative, he was courageous, he was able to do what others could not do. I always believe, even if you are employed to be a watchman, make sure that out of all the watchmen, you must be the best one. That people should be able to say, no, that one is unique. You are a reverend. Make sure that you are best among the reverend. People should be able to say, that's the man that we need. So it doesn't matter what industry you are in, but you can still pull up your socks and be a relevant person within your society where you are by doing what I'm saying. Work hard, have connections, be relevant, be a provider of different solutions. But despite being a reverend, you do not just fold your arms and say, a tithe will be just coming where I'm sitting at home. Even people who give you tithe, they only give you tithe to a person, a reverend who's working very hard, who's able to visit them, to pray for them, who is able to walk with them. When they have problems, you are part and parcel of their problems. But not a reverend who's just very lazy. They call him, hey, we have a patient in the house. He said, oh no, I'm reading the Bible. I'm sorry. Okay. We have lost somebody. If you know, hey, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm fasting. Serious? So people should not be hiding their laziness in the name of religion. No. How many students did I teach that time? Now you are a professor. You find others, and they just gave you to say, why did I do this course? They are just sitting, and now they want to miracles to become.
Hey, don't forget. We're going live. This is live. This is it's not just me and you. These guys want to watch it.
I'm saying the truth, my brother. I am saying the truth. We should not make theology a dumb subject just because we are dumb. No. Within the same theology, the same industry, there are people who are very creative and they are doing well. I have seen them. I have seen them, my brother. So don't hide under religion or theology and say, no, it's you as individual.
Well, Prof, for today, I think let's end it here for today.
Thank you very much.
Let me just talk to let's just end it with the people, and then we'll just have a 15 minutes together. We thank everyone that was able to join. We pray that this led you into the world of religion. What is religion? And of course, the three main things, as we said, the claims. Every religion has a claim. Those claims are divided into two. It's either metaphysics, which is there's a God, a deity, and a supernatural force, or it's a physical claim that people choose an object and they identify with that object. Those are the claims. The second part of religion is now the practices. Those practices affect the community. The practices might be marriage, what you do when a child is born, which is the rites and rituals, etc., etc. And then the other part, which is now the economy, so rather the industry itself, religious industry, where the money exchanges. It differs. It may be the informal sector, which is what we call informal religion. What we mean by informal religion, we talk about religions that did not yet advance to the level where they have written texts. For example, when you think of your Sangoma does not have a written text, right? There is no written text. There's no book, right? So that's an informal sector of the religion. Then there's the formal sector, the sectors that have holy books and stuff like that have been formalized. The difference between the informal and formal sectors has generally been the advancement of these two. For example, it doesn't talk to how old rather any of these sectors are. It's just the advancement. For example, Christianity was unfortunately able to take see the opportunity and take the opportunity when the Europeans were advancing violently in what we call colonialism and imperialism. Christianity sought to advance, and of course, it did a lot of good. And so did Muslims and others. So these were able to formalize and create formal structures. And then there's the informal and formal parts of the industry. The religious industry then is the money exchanges, the value of the religion. Who sells the idol? Who sells the Bible? Who makes the Bible? The hospitals, the schools, the employment when pastors are employed, the services that private practitioners give, whether it's counseling, there's a money exchange, etc., etc., etc. This is what we call the religious industry. In a nutshell, this is our conversation with Professor Dr. Billy Gama, I have to say that right, on this topic of what is religion. When you think of religion, it's those three things. The first thing is the claims of a religion. The second thing is the practices. And thirdly, it's the religious industry, the exchange of money. We thank you for joining us. Don't forget that. And may God continue to bless you, or whatever duty we hope continues to bless you and keep you safe. This is where we end it with you, and have a great